So just a little bit about me. I started in this industry in 1999, so I've been a 6-time egg donor, and I've been a 3-time surrogate. So pretty much know firsthand of the whole experience. And Mary, who also works with me, she's also been a 3-time surrogate. We're a little bit of an older generation, so you know, the thing of the surrogates need to be young, that's not always the case. I'm almost 40. We did a single embryo transfer, and I got pregnant on the first try. So it really just varies, and like somebody had mentioned at one of the sessions, the quality of the embryo, I think, is the most important. So with my agency, we offer surrogacy domestically, so we can find you a surrogate here within the United States, as well as an egg donor, because we do have an egg donor pool as well, or we can go to Mexico. Now, the difference obviously between Mexico and the US is cost. You're looking at roughly with egg donation 50 to 55,000 compared to the US, where you're looking at closely 100 to 120,000, depending on how many times you try, the clinic that you select, the surrogate, if she's experienced or she's not experienced. So all of that does make a difference. Also, of course, the donor that you select as well. Different from the US to the surrogates in Mexico. You cannot select your surrogate in Mexico. You can meet her. You can have a video every single month, every time she goes to the doctor's appointments, but you can't do that here like you do here in the United States. Like for instance, with my intended parents, they came to every single appointment. They were there from transfer through delivery, right through the C-section. So they were very involved in the pregnancy, and if that is what you're looking for, then Mexico is probably not going to be a good fit for you. However, if what you're looking for is cost and to save, obviously then Mexico might be an option. And the clinics do have Mexican donors, but they also have international donors, and we also have a donor pool of American donors as well as South African donors that are willing to travel to Mexico to complete your cycle. Unfortunately, in my PowerPoint, I was going to actually show some of the donors that we do have in our database that are willing to go, but that's not working as well. But we do a free 1-hour consultation. So if anybody is interested, you can always give us a call, set up a time, and we can even Skype, and you can actually see the donors, or we even have a database. You can just register, and you can get your own username and password, and you can feel free to browse at your leisure. Now,
why is it that in Mexico you don't have communication with them?
Well, the biggest thing that they don't want to happen in Mexico is that for the surrogates to try and hold the babies hostage, if you will, saying, hey, well, you need to pay me more money because I know you're coming from the US, so you must have more money. So I need you to give me more money. Now, it's not to say that you can't meet her and all of that, but it's definitely different than it is, within the United States. And quite frankly, if you're going to Mexico, your main reason of going to Mexico is because of cost. You're not going to Mexico for any other reason. I mean, and you do have to plan to stay there for 3 to 4 weeks after delivery. There's 1 week that you have to stay in Villahermosa, where the baby will actually be born. Because in the state of Tabasco, that is the only state that allows for surrogacy. And it's legal, it's in their bylaws that it's okay for someone to have a child through a surrogate in Tabasco. Only one person's name can go on the birth certificate, and you must do a DNA test, which we work with a DNA company that you can purchase your kit. I believe it's $500 and something is the kit for you and the baby. So if you have twins and both of you use your sperm, both of you are going to have to test, because they have to know, well, which child is whose. So with Mexico, the way it works pretty much is you would have to travel one time to leave your deposit, your sperm, sign all your paperwork, and then you come back for your baby pickup.
Is the mother left blank?
The mother is left blank, yes. It's different than Thailand. Thailand, you were required to, the surrogate's name was required to be put on there, but in Mexico, it's not. Mexico, it's fairly simple in that you do your DNA test, that your name can go on the birth certificate. And the other thing about Mexico, your child will have a dual citizenship. So the child will be a Mexican citizen as well as a US citizen, and they cannot renounce their Mexican citizenship. So for anybody that wants to do it, once you get to Villahermosa, you have to go to the birth consulate. That process might take you all of 48 hours after the baby is born. They just have to provide you with the birth certificate with your name on it. They'll give you all the other documentation that you need. And then you go back to Mexico City to the US Embassy, and then that is where the time takes, because you have to do your DNA test. They have to wait for the results to come back. And then after your results come back, then that's when they will issue you a passport and a visa to come back into the country. And then when you come back into the country, you can do a second parent adoption to, and add your partner on to the birth certificate. Now, with also Mexico, the fact that you can have your select your donor. We do have donors that are willing to meet with the intended father. I know you guys were downstairs and the gentleman was talking about his donor and the surrogate having lunch together and meeting. There's a lot of donors that are willing to do that. I have a donor right now with their intended father, or her intended fathers. She is going to Mexico to do the donor cycle, because the donors have to be there from start to finish. So they're typically there about 16 days. The Mexican clinic has a full process of how the whole thing works. And they do, they will be there while you're there, obviously, because you're gonna have to leave your specimen at the same time. So if you do wanna meet her and go out to lunch, have a cup of coffee, whatever, that is a possibility. And I know for some people that is very important that they do that, because obviously we wanna know the person just a little bit more. I mean, personally, as being a donor myself, I've met my donor babies. There's, a matter of fact, one that lives in North Carolina. She's my splitting image. Stubborn-wise, look-wise, everything. And her mother called me one time and said, I'm giving her back. You can come and get her because I know that this is all you. So, I mean, you can create that relationship. I mean, it's organic, I'm sure, but it's a possibility. If you want something where, like I mentioned before, you have a relationship with the surrogate, Mexico is not going to be for you. And if you want to stay in the United States, we typically get surrogates in the southeast corridor of the country. And they are less expensive than actually sometimes with agencies in the Northeast. One, the cost of living is slightly less than it is from being up north. And in the state of Georgia, believe it or not, as conservative as that state is, both intended parents' name can go on the birth certificate. So there's no having to do a second parent adoption in Georgia. And you also get a pre-birth order. So that's different too than a lot of other states. And you would think with Georgia being as conservative as it is, that that's not the case, but we have a lot of same-sex couples in Georgia. So And to bring a point back to with Mexico, I'm sorry, I'm jumping all around because like I said, I did have my PowerPoint and I don't like to look down every 2 seconds. The facilities that we work with in Mexico, we work with 2. They are state-of-the-art facilities. I was actually just there 2 weeks ago. They have everything that we're accustomed to here, they have there as well. And even I know for many people, safety is a concern. But I mean, I was there as a single female and I was walking around, and clearly you have to use caution. You're not gonna just, be out all hours of the night and just hopping into a cab or calling a cab like we do here. But you can be safe. I stayed at a hotel that was literally next door to the U.S. Embassy, which is considered the financial district. And I walked around, I went to different restaurants, I got out, did a little sightseeing on my own, and there wasn't any problems. And there's actually in Mexico City, Zona Rosa, which is a gay-friendly area. They have hotels, they have bars, they have nightclubs, they have just about whatever you want. And people freely walk around, nobody is bothering them, nobody is giving them second glares or anything like that, and they're comfortable in that area too. So I can now just open it up to questions. So go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
Just a couple of questions. Can you touch on the surrogate selection process in Mexico a little bit, how you do that, and how the women are compensated, and if there's any sort of social stigmas associated with this?
There is social stigma with it. Mexico is a very Catholic religious country. And some surrogates, they do get shunned out of their churches, and the church there is huge to them. But their thing is, I am doing this for the benefit of my family, so therefore I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the surrogates, they're typically about $10,000 to $15,000 that they get compensated. And the clinic has an actual agency that recruits them and monitors to them throughout the entire process. So it's nothing like here. I mean, here they have freedom to, be women. There, it's much more confined.